That is the sound of a distracted, divided, and dead American until they hear. Battle for Freedom, triggering change, one heartbeat at a time. Hello, everyone. This is your host, Watson. I am your host, Watson Prunier from Battle for Freedom on the Mojo5 Radio, and I'm glad that you're joining me on this day. If you're listening online, or if you're listening in your car radio, which way that you're doing this, you probably just finished listening to Room 13 with Eric and Raquel. If you get a chance, go to facebook.com/Mojo5 Radio if you want to interact with this program. But if you want to listen to many of the other shows that are available to you on Mojo5 Radio, go to mojo50.com and click the schedule button. I also want you to do me a favor. I want you to go off and click the donate button, the shop button. Click all the buttons while you're there. Push their buttons, and we'll be appreciative of you. I see that Lep, Carolyn, Heidi, and Linda have decided to join and be part of the program today, and I really appreciate them and every last one of you. We got some things to talk about today because there's this, I've been talking about this insidious narrative that has been trying to plague our country with legislation that's basically trying to ruin and take away our Second Amendment rights, our freedoms, our rights to protect us. We've seen even today, this morning, I wake up and I get a notification from Facebook about the idea that one of my posts, the things were fact checked. It won't let me see what was fact checked. It won't let me know exactly what was removed. But it wasn't allowed. It wasn't permitted to exist. So they shut down our First Amendment rights, and now they'll continue to push for our Second Amendment rights. And every right that we have, it's no longer available for us to have and enjoy because of the fact that the powers that be don't want us having any power at all. And this is where we are. This is where we stand. Thank you, Curtis and Lisa, for joining and being part of the program. This is where we stand right now as we are burdened with this horrific problem of people who should not have power are making decisions about what power other people can and cannot have. It's not about representation because that's the role that government is supposed to be taking. The government is supposed to be representing us. They are not representing the people. They are basically oppressing and they are oppressing the people in ways that never should have come to pass. But this is the result. This is the result of what we deal with when we choose to be lackluster in our approach and not do the right. We leave haughty people in office because remember, everyone's focusing on, they want to talk about Donald Trump being haughty, but any person who's been in office more than 20 years and believes that they are making matters better and they are still part of the consistent problem, that's a level of haughtiness that needs to be exposed and exposed as quick as possible. Unfortunately, here we are, another tragedy over and over and over again, more shootings, and again, all of this perfectly timed to keep people from being free, keep people from living, because the goal is subjugation. If you didn't get a chance to see this, when I started off of this program, what I want to do is I want to talk about guns and ammo and shooting down the false narratives. The reason why I say this is because of the fact that we're running into this problem where a lot of people are very emotional right now. And you know what? And that's the worst part about it, is because when we make decisions based on emotions, that's when we are going to make the worst decisions possible. Our minds need to be clear. Our minds need to be looking at the facts and looking at the evidence. And I am so glad. See, when I talked to you earlier about going to Mojo50 Radio and listening to some of the other different programs that you can listen to, follow on Saturday. We have, I think it's 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. in the afternoon, Eastern Standard Time. You have Defending 2A with Jason Gouffre, who spends time helping you understand the stories of what's taking place. What are the tragedies that have taken place because of the fact that we don't do our history when it comes to the Second Amendment. People just get emotional. I don't like guns. No one needs this type of gun. Well, you know what? No one needs to be in government 20, 30, 40, 47 years and plus and counting and not really serve the people at the capacity that they were called to do. But we have people who are in office who are killing more people than mass shootings when you turn around and you look at the horrible legislation that they have passed. Remember, Joe Biden, the very Joe Biden who created the legislation and fathered the legislation that put more black people in jail than we have in our lifetime. But he's president and he's better than Orange Man Bad. So to turn around and say that, the problems in this country does not fall solely on the shoulders of Donald Trump. It falls on the shoulders of arrogant men and women who have been in office far longer than they needed to be. And then it also falls on the shoulders of we, the people, who have consistently put our hopes and our trust in these fallen men and women, presuming that our party is better than the other one. That has been the biggest lie. That has been the biggest deception. That is the biggest lie and deception. Right now, shut it down, folks. No party is better than the other. Why? Because both parties are filled with sin-filled people, and God can use whomever he chooses, whether he wants to use Democrats to judge us or bless us, or Republicans to judge us or bless us. It's God's priority and prerogative on how he chooses to do what he does. And the moment that we get so fixated and believing that somehow, some way, we know God better than he knows himself, we know who God will choose, we know who God will make the rulers and will be the righteous rulers of our nations, then we turn around and we exact the very judgment that's due us because we have become overconfident with ourselves, believing that we know better than God. I'm just sick and tired of this thing. I saw this one post, I shared it earlier. Congress has a 9% approval rating, and yet we return people to Congress at a rate of 90%. What does that say about us? It says we're not paying attention. Dr. Ben Carson. Dr. Ben Carson. I don't know if many of you have seen this, where we continue to push this idea that we can make America better by doing the same thing over and over again. What is that? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Oh Lord, please help us. Please help us. I had one, because this is where we are right now. If we don't see how foolish we are in this thing called life, presuming that we are better. Let's see if I could bring this over to you so you can have fun with all the images that I'm going to keep dropping on you as we go through this broadcast. Here's another one. Present bad policies meant to undo past bad policies is in itself bad policy. Present bad policies meant to undo past bad policies is in itself bad policy. See, now mind you, I'm referring to the idea of, okay, we want to end segregation. We want to put forth reparations. We want to put forth affirmative action. We want to put forth all these different policies. We're going to give free health care, free all this other stuff. Bad policies, because of the fact that the idea to put the notion of something being free is the biggest lie to the American people, because of the fact that it's actually charging our posterity. But we keep more government, give us more money, because it just comes off nowhere. It just grows on trees. We've said that. Do you realize that we no longer say money doesn't grow on trees? And there's a lot, and the reason why we don't say that, because when we ask and we said that to our kids, when we said that to people, we recognize that they would actually stop and recognize and actually think about that. No. Well, where does money come from? Oh, we don't want to foster any kind of conversation right now because doing so would get people to start thinking. And right now, in the midst of another tragedy, a convenient timed tragedy, of lives being lost. I'm so sorry that officer lost his life, because you know he's not the only one. He's not the. I have a loved one, a family member who lost his life years ago, 4 years ago this July. But we are pushing forward at breakneck speed. Just did we not learn from the COVID lockdown? Did we not learn from the restrictions that, guess what? The government told us what we could and could not do. You have to wear a mask. This business is closed. This business is shut down. That totalitarian mindset, that actually crippled America. People lost jobs. People are committing suicide because they don't have the social dynamics of their lives as it was before. They need that human interaction, and people are losing. Yes, Carolyn, money comes from our government's printing press. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And here we are. We're constantly pushing forward new policies to try and supposedly protect the people when we're actually subjugating the people. Because there's no other way to describe what we saw last year. There's no way to describe what we saw last year with lockdowns, restrictions, and now you're free to breathe, you're free to walk, you're free to fellowship, you're free to do so much. The government never was supposed to have this level of power. We are in the most scariest position possible, because Biden is now the Biden who in October said that no president should be ruling by executive orders. That is nothing but tyranny. And now he's basically hinting that he will now use executive order to take away our rights to own firearms and protect ourselves. Not hunting. But when the government now turns around, remember, the same government that said you couldn't have more than 32 ounces or more than 16 ounces of a drink of soda in New York. The same government that basically says you can't do this, and now they're coming for the guns. Where does it stop? Where does it stop? It doesn't stop if we continue to allow the lies, the manipulation, the false narratives to continue to occupy our landscape and believe that people are going to be free. I want to share something with you, and I heard this the other day, and this is Andrew McCabe, part of the people who sought to take down Trump. The liars, the manipulators, the people in government that we're supposed to trust. Okay? Now, I apologize. I have not shared anything about American Pride Roasters Coffee, the official coffee of Mojo 50 Radio. Go to AmericanPrideRoasters.com, because you know what? You would think it's coursing through my veins right now. Watson's white chocolate caramel blend. And you know what? You can get some yourself right now. Go to AmericanPrideRoasters.com. Don't delay and enjoy. Sit back, sip some coffee, sip some American Pride Roasters coffee, because I'm just getting started on this, and it's really important that we get to this and hear what's being shared here. So Andrew McCabe said the following, and let's see if I can get this so you can hear this. This was in an interview the other day.
Suspects alive, 10 people are dead. 8 people are dead in Georgia, Andy, from a mass shooting last week. I don't know. We took a year off from high-profile mass shootings with the pandemic, but it seems that it's back on.
I want to pause right there. Did you hear that? We took a year off from high-profile shooting. Barack Obama even said it. He said, former President Barack Obama said that, you know what, it shouldn't take a once in a century pandemic to basically get rid of mass shootings. That right there shows you the nature of these. This isn't tinfoil nonsense. This is the most correct, accurate depiction of what and how we've been played. We've been played with this virus. We've been played with mass shootings, and it all for the purpose of controlling. If you do not believe that the powers that be are not using these systems in order to take over our lives and control us, you have been mind raped. You have lost the discernment skills to fight yourself out of a clear plastic bag. Actually, the bag is still over your head, cutting off circulation and breathing and processing of brain power. You are suffocating on ignorance. They are using these things. Think about this. They're using the pandemics, they're using shootings to make legislation calls. This book right here, if you get a chance, Matthew Bracken, he wrote this book called Enemies, Foreign and Domestic. You have to read this book to understand how far they would go to ruin our lives. This book was written more than 15 years ago, but it accurately depicts exactly what the role play has been for government for the last 20, 30 years. It starts off with people at a football game, and a sniper starts shooting people in a stadium, and the government starts passing laws saying what guns you can and cannot have, and it continues to spiral down on whether or not you can possess, own things, and then they tell you you don't have the right to have something. Everything starts off with the idea of you don't have the right. And we as Americans, in our emotions, we get so emotional and we start buying into, yes, we buy into the manipulation, we buy into the tragedy, but to hear him say that we are taking off a year from mass shootings for the pandemic, folks, what else do you need to hear? McCabe said it and Barack Obama have said it. Both of them have stated this because, yes, Carolyn, live in fear and you are controlled. I didn't hear about the coming insurrection, Kathy, but thank you. I will definitely look into that. But here we are, once again, they're making rules, they're making laws, they're taking away our right to breathe. You remember when everybody kept saying that, you remember that message from George Floyd, I can't breathe? When progressives take over, we won't be able to breathe. We won't be able to live. We won't be able to do anything that, if you thought lockdown was bad because of COVID, watch lockdown because of anti-gun freedom, gun rights legislation to be passed by the most progressive arm of our government in centuries. This current administration is the very reason our founding fathers fought for their freedoms. They fought for their freedoms, not to hunt with muskets, but to determine that the government would not oppress the people and deny them their rights to live freely and not subjugated to tyranny and tyrants. And now you have a tyrant who spoke against executive orders, about to use executive orders to strip away our amendment rights. This was something from, I believe, Jason Gouffre. No matter how you feel about guns, you should educate yourself with the historical truths of disarmed populations. I'm going to leave this up here for a second. And I want you to sit here and look at this, because you remember the narrative. I talked about the insidious narrative 2 days ago about how far they're going to try and basically push that white ain't right. They were orgasming on the whole idea of believing that the shooter in Boulder, Colorado was a white man. And they were already pushing the narrative that it was a white man. This is what social media was pushing. And Yugs basically said, go to social media where you can get the facts of an event 5 minutes before it even happens. And on social media and on the major networks, they were orgasming because they found another mass shooter. And unfortunately, now he's no longer white. He's a Muslim Syrian born individual. And now he's no longer white. He's no longer a mass shooter. He's mentally ill. It's time to shoot down the narrative because of the fact that look at what happened. Look what transpired in just 1 week. We watched the narrative. The media has been doing everything that it can to push bad policy, that white ain't right, and that white people are the only people who are doing mass shootings. And God is going to expose this. And you know what? Maybe right now, our subjugation has to happen. It's not the freedom fighters. It's not the people who believe in the Constitution. It's not the people who believe in liberty that are the ones who have to feel the wrath of a progressive government. It's the very people who voted for it. It's the very people who participated in the voter fraud. It's the people who participated in the election fraud. It's the people who continue to keep voting Democrat and progressive and believe that more government is the better solution. But if you look at over and over again, every time you have more government than you have people, the people are subjugated and unable to live and breathe. I can't breathe is not the phrase from George Floyd. I can't breathe is the freedom. Is the speech of American citizens who did not want to be under tyranny under Britain and does not want to be under tyranny under Democrat progressives and our government today. Period. Because there were Republicans who participated in the subjugation of Americans last year with these unlawful restrictions on how people can live, with mask mandates and the number of businesses that had to be closed because for some strange reason, we were able to, you can think about the stupidity of this, okay? Of these mask mandates, of this whole idea of pushing all this stuff. I saw a picture with it was LeBron James playing basketball, and someone put a post out there that said, look at this. We could play and sweat on one another. Playing basketball, shooting basketball, but we can't shake hands with one another when the game's over. It's that simple to see how stupid we are in believing the narratives that have been pushed forward. And you believe the narrative of the vaccines, you believe the narrative of the COVID, you believe the narratives of being that taking guns away can make people's lives safer. And I'm not done with McCabe, because I will continue with what McCabe had to say, but I had to stop on the idea that, look at this, we hadn't had a mass shooting during the lockdown. And here it is. We are dealing with this once again. It's all the world is a stage. That's what Shakespeare said. And right now, the Democrats keep pushing forward the best stage yet. The best stage is yet to come. And if we don't wake up, if we don't recognize how much we will lose because we are emotional rather than rational, it'll be too late. It'll be too late. I just, no matter how you feel about guns, you should educate yourself with the historical truths of disarmed populations. That truth, that passage, that statement right there, it rings so true and evermore. Right now, at the cusp, we're at the very edge of tyranny. And once we fall, the fall will be long. It's not going to be a brief fall. It will spiral out of control. They were drunk with power with what they did with COVID, and you disarm the people, they will be far more drunker or more drunk than you ever could imagine. I'm your host, Watson Prunier from Battle for Freedom. Let me go to a break, and I'll talk to you beautiful people on the flip side. Checking notifications, and I got another message from Facebook about me playing something that was copywritten. You've got to be kidding me. I'm getting really tired of this because everything I share is public material, and it's time to put an end to this. Let's put an end to this right now. Here we go.
You think you're a fool doing fact checks, playing favorites, not checking liberal media, and your hypocrisy you do to me, making free speech no longer free.
Sing it. We will post it. We will post it. You know what I'm talking about.
They think you're a lame man, fake man, trying to be fair, but we know that you do not care. You just make up the rule, you big fat fool. Liberty gonna take you back to school.
We will post it. Preach it. We will post it.
Peter Kim, a new song ain't wrong. Can't censor me, cause I'm gonna show you what is free. And your hypocrisy, you do too. The Constitution grants us all that liberty.
We will post it. We will post it. You got me? We will post it. Yeah, you know it. We will post it. One more time. We will post it. Just send you a message about what you can censor, what you cannot. It's time to have some fun here and be real, because at the end of the day, it's about having fun and not trying to make money. I'm out. Hello, everyone. This is Watson Prunier from Battle for Freedom on Mojo 50 Radio, and I'm just wanting to. I'm here sitting at the cusp of trying not to scream and lose my head as we talk about this whole issue of guns and ammo. Guns and ammo. It's not even showing the right thing there. I apologize. As we sit here looking at this, as you understand where I'm coming from when we talk about the whole idea of we are in a very different and difficult place for this country right now, as tyranny seeks to just command us and take over our lives and ruin us. Here we are, and we're facing another tragedy. I shared it earlier that I believe, I have the stinking feeling that this isn't the only mass shooting we will be dealing with. I don't know how many more we have before Easter. I don't know how many more we have before Independence Day. I don't know how many more mass shootings we have before the end of the year. But understand this, they're going to continue to push this over and over again. What was it? I was looking at, what is it? Who's the name of the individual? Oh, yeah, we talked about McCabe and everything. Let's go back to them and hear what this is what McCabe had said when it came to the shootings.
Back on, mass shootings, back on. You've done a ton of work in terms of guns. People, I think, forget that the FBI is so heavily involved in gun sales and gun safety, Andy. So now that we have 10 dead today, 8 dead last week, what's going to keep us from having 20, 30, 40 over the next few months now that this does seem to be back on?
Absolutely nothing. Nothing is going to keep this from happening again under our current situation, under the laws that we currently live under. This has become a part of the American experience. And let's not forget, it's completely unique to us. There's not another similar country on earth that experiences the same number, the frequency of mass shootings as we do. And it is directly attributable to the profusion and the availability of guns, particularly particularly high-powered assault-style weapons, and how easily pretty much anyone can acquire them here in this country.
I want to stop there for a second there and call him a bold-faced liar. See, one of the things that Andy McCabe, and this is what a lot of people, this is showing up on MSNBC, on CNN, as Andy McCabe, liar, who lied against former President Donald J. Trump, who orchestrated atrocities against American cities and citizens because they want to maintain power. They'll do anything that they can to ruin and destroy someone's life. And here it is. They're about to do this. Andy McCabe, a trusted voice, a trusted thing. This guy is a charlatan. This guy has been in office far too long, abusing his power and position as someone who was supposed to be part of one of the most revered law enforcement agencies in the history of our country. But the FBI has become nothing but a mockery of truth and justice. And he lies, saying that there's no other nation in history that has the access to weapons and to do exactly what we were going to do. Hello, Andy McCabe. Do you want to actually go back to Nigeria for the last, 2 to 4 years? How many massacres have we had where Christians being killed by Muslims? Multiple times in February 2018, in June of was it May or June of 2020. If you keep going back, we can find hundreds of Christians being slaughtered. Massacres, Andy McCabe. But you sit here lying to the people that there is no other country doing this, and I dare say that you, liar, pants on fire, as you deny the reality that there are more countries that are doing this. And guess what? When we look at the other countries where you actually had the leaders, you had these terroristic leaders. You look at Lenin. You look at in every last one of them, I can't come, Mao Zedong in every last one of them, and you look at the number of people who lost their lives. We're trying to paint America red with all the different sites that we've had mass shootings. And the worst part about it is that you won't even be honest and talk about this, that it's happening in other countries where the people are disarmed. Hello, let's go back to actually UK. Let's go back to Britain. How many mass shootings have we had in Britain over the last decade? And they are disarmed. And they don't have access to high-powered firearms like we do. And they still have mass murders. Oh, well, let's see. How did the mass murder of the thing in, was it in New Zealand? How many mass shootings have we had even in Germany? How many mass shootings have we had even in France? To sit here and say that no other nation is doing it the way that we are doing this in this country is so intellectually dishonest, and anyone who believes the lie has been raped mentally far too long and unable and should never vote again. Because if you are going to take what these liars and manipulators are selling you, you will sell your soul for a bowl of soup. And you will die in your misery, trusting and believing fallen men, because you refuse to do the history. You refuse to do the research, the manipulation of data over and over and over again. I saw this article. I really want to interview this guy. His name is John Miltimore, and he wrote this article back in a couple years ago. He says, the myth that the U.S. leads the world in mass shootings. And I love the opening paragraph. To understand the misleading narrative, we must look to the era of narrative-driven journalism and the politicization of society, both of which subjugate truth to ideology and politics. His is what section? The dominant narrative. You know, when you see, he says this fact alone probably would have led me to believe that the U.S. leads the world in mass shooting. However, an assist goes to the U.S. media and politicians. The dominant narrative. This is what he says from former President Barack Obama in 2015. Let's be clear. President Obama said in 2015 after the shooting in North Carolina, at some point, we as a country will have to reckon with the fact that this type of mass violence does not happen in other advanced countries. Harry Reid said, the United States is the only advanced country where this kind of mass violence occurs. Liar, liar, pants on fire. We are pushing this narrative that the United States, with the freedom to get this, and here's the thing, here's the part about it that just blows me away. No pun intended. Okay? Is that when you look at the cities and the states with the highest gun restrictions, the gun rights restrictions, you do not see a squelching in the number of violence and shootings. You look at Chicago, breaking numbers every year. The only reason why the numbers weren't so high in Chicago this past year was because of COVID. You had year after year here in Indianapolis. These major cities run by Democrats that basically want to restrict your rights on what you can and cannot do. But Chicago and D.C. and are the biggest outliers of the lie, because they have the highest form of restrictions and people still are getting killed. The gangbangers. They're wanting to pass laws to restrict law-abiding citizens from being able to arm themselves and defend themselves from the very criminals who don't want to abide by the law. Right now, what's happening at the southern border is all the picture that you need to know about where Democrats and progressives stand on the issue of the law, enforcing the law, and doing what's right by the law. They are letting hundreds of thousands of people come through the border, break the laws to come into this country. And they're doing the same thing with the criminals who continue to acquire the guns illegally, whether through theft, whether through any other way, because they have to go off and do this. No other country is doing this because you have no other country in the world that has Democrats and progressives who are arming the criminals to keep the people in subjugation and fear. Why do you literally the fact that many of you are ignorantly claiming that what happened, and yes, the storm Capitol thing was a nightmare, okay? But to sit there and put that on Donald Trump on a one-day event that happened in our U.S. Capitol and remain silent about what happened over the summer with the Chaz Chop Zone and with cities around America where protests, where Black Lives Matter and Antifa were burning our buildings, burning our cities, beating our American people, shooting and killing people, and you use one day to condemn the former president of the United States of America, you are intellectually dishonest, and you need to keep your mouth shut, period. Because you have no understanding of history, you have no appreciation of the depths of how far man will go. Think about this. Let's start putting our thinking caps on, okay? Work with me here. We get out of our way. The media narrative for the past 4 years has been about how evil, racist, sexist, xenophobic that Donald Trump was. That Donald Trump was literally the incarnation of Satan himself. Okay? And so let's literally work with that narrative. Let's just work with me on this. Let's say that was true. Okay? Let's say everything that the media said about Donald Trump was true. He's a sexist. He's a rapist. He's a racist. He's xenophobic. All these other different things. Okay. So let's embrace your narrative. So then why is the concept and the idea that the government wanting to have nefarious deeds perpetrated against its American people not a palatable story? If one evil should be credible and recognized and defeated, why can't we not accept and recognize that there are other evils that are credible and should be accepted? The idea that we could position this is where we are as a society, and this is the reason why the narrative should be shut down as quick as possible, because we are so finicky in how we embrace or accept and adopt truth and basically form our distorted worldviews that are not based on the Word of God, but based on our faulty emotions and faulty presumptions of what truth and accuracy is. And then we vote in and we put in policies and people who will push forward policies that further subjugate us and further ruin our lives. To sit here and embrace Donald Trump and call him a form of evil and then act like the rest of the government, that the Nancy Pelosi's, the Governor Cuomo's, that the Planned Parenthood is not a form of evil. If Donald Trump and racism and hatred and sexism in America is a form of evil, and then we want to keep a blind eye to abortion and all the other different things that we as conservatives may speak out against, to sit there and say that one tyranny takes place and not embrace the idea of another tyranny is intellectually dishonest, and you have no right to speak or say anything at all. Shame on you. Shame. Oh, no, we're not that bad. Oh, no. Yes, you are. Because if we're going to go there with one side, we have to go there with all sides. Anything less is failure to be consistent and show the integrity and character to the cause of ending tyranny. And if you keep your mouth shut right now during the tyrannical arm of Joe Biden, all the executive orders that he's passing, and this one now, because you feel that this will make you safe, you feel that this will save America. Hello, let me introduce you to this thing called the war on drugs. Hey, let's start a war to end drugs, illegal drugs coming into this country. Let's start this war where we'll make pot illegal, we'll make crack illegal, we'll make cocaine illegal, we'll make heroin illegal. And for those of you who are old enough, we can talk about barbiturates, we can talk about quaaludes, we can talk about all those different things. Hey, how did that work? How did that work when we had... So who do we blame for the proliferation of drugs in this country when we've been trying to put an end to this? Oh, let's go even further back, folks. Let's talk about another war. The war on poverty. Do you remember that cool thing? When we spent trillions and trillions of dollars to end poverty. We've put all this money in government programs, the government who is supposed to fix the issue of poverty, and we still have so many people in America living under the levels of poverty, living well below the poverty line. Guess what? That program didn't work. That government program didn't work. But thinking that we could put another government program that can actually save and make America better, like, hey, let's get rid of guns and let's just start printing up money to make things fair. Guess what? We've been printing money for the last 70 years on a war against poverty, and we still have poverty. We spent the last 50 plus years on our war against drugs, and we still have drugs in our community. Don't sit here and tell me that this narrative that the government can push a better policy and program to fix the problems in this country is going to be better, and electing these officials to put more government, more regulations, and more restrictions on America is going to fix the problem. It hadn't fixed the problem in the last 50 to 70 years, and it won't in the next 50 to 70 days. Yeah, we send money overseas. Biden blamed Trump for the problem at the border because we took away $700 million from foreign aid. Even now, we're back to the same playbook. Let's blame the previous administration, and I won't take any ownership on how I have been part of the failed policies that has failed this country for so long. And Joe Biden having the nerve to complain about failures of the government after serving in 47 years in government is the biggest form of hypocrisy, and any of you buying his lie, I dare say your IQ is less than your shoe size. Because if you have the nerve to call Donald Trump an idiot, If you had the nerve to call George Bush an idiot, if you have the nerve to call conservatives, if you have the nerve to call Bible-thumping believers, gun carriers, idiots, and you want to basically make it seem like they were born out of incest and they're backwards and they're hillbillies and hilljacks, and you want to keep saying all this stuff, but you sit here believing that more government's going to fix the problem, you are the very hilljack ignorance that you are perpetuating or pushing and projecting on other people. We are at this point right now in this country. Hey, go to Nigeria, Andy. Go to Nigeria, where you sit here and you watch in these other countries where Muslims are shooting dead Christians. And guess what? It's black on black crime. But that doesn't exist, does it? That doesn't exist. Because the moment that we acknowledge the black people killing black people in Africa, we actually then now have to look at the narrative here in America and walk away from the false narrative of racism and look at black people killing black people. I'm so tired of people saying, well, you don't see it, you'll hear about white on white racism or white on white racism or white on white crime. Yes, we do. It's called crime. It's called looking at the statistics. It's called looking at the numbers. But we don't want to do that when we're manipulated by the information from the media, who is no longer reporting the news, but reporting narratives to manipulate people. And more people are emotional. Emotional during Black History Month, emotional during Women's History Month, or emotional during every. Do you recognize how we as a government have craftily turned around and gone emotional on making people feel pride about their color, their gender, and everything so much, and the sexual orientation, everything. Instead of just letting people feel pride in who they are, we are creating bad policy to ruin other individuals. I talked about this 2 days ago when we sat there and we turned around and we're pushing policies that white ain't right, and now we've got white people killing themselves because of the fact that they're tired of being called racist. They're tired of being calling subjectors and people who have ruined their lives, people who were never even born during slavery, people who are generations removed from the atrocities of what we've done in the past. But now there are people who are dying, and we say the language, it's time for you to feel their pain. To say, to feel their pain is so dangerous and it's so wrong, because you will never see that in the Bible. Paul says, I became a Scythian to witness to the Scythian, but he's like, I did not become a Scythian to witness the Scythian's pain so that I can actually speak to the Scythian. No, he got a chance to know them, but he didn't have to feel their pain. And this idea that we have to feel the pain of the victims of Colorado and Columbine and all these other different things, it's wrong, because of the fact that if we can fix their pain, we can fix and we can't fix their pain. We can partially fix the pain if we actually enforce the laws. Guess what? The shooter in Colorado, the Syrian-born man, who wasn't white, who wasn't a white man, was on the FBI's list. They were monitoring him. Guess what? Was it the Parkland shooter? Was on the FBI list. When you look at many of these shooters who are around this country who are conveniently shooting, the Boston Bombers, they were on the FBI list. Hey, isn't it the same organization that Andy McCabe and James Comey worked for? You remember those two guys, and Lisa Strzok and Carter Page, and every last one of them were so focused on ruining Donald Trump, but they're letting these terrorists come in and shoot up and kill American people? When are we going to hold them responsible for them not doing their job? Not hearing that narrative, are we? But we can hold Donald Trump accountable for his job of not listening to the science of helping people recover from COVID or us get out of the pandemic, but we don't want to hold these other individuals responsible, like the Barack Obama administration that allowed the illegal gun running into Mexico. You remember the Fast and Furious, quote unquote, scandal that happened during the Barack Obama administration? When are we going to hold the FBI and Barack Obama and Joe Biden responsible for that mess? Oh, we got to focus on Donald Trump and racism and sexism. We got to push all this energy into this wokeness. Understand this and hear this clearly. Woke theology, the woke narrative in this country is nothing but social rape. Woke theology is nothing but social rape that is happening and justified, legalized social rape in our culture today. And guess what? That social rape has basically removed the discernment skills of far too many American people to look at history, pay attention to what's happened in the past, and recognize it will happen in the present. And if we are too haughty, if we are too arrogant to believe that the United States is far above, remind you, the evil United Racist States that subjugated black people, that denied women the right to do what's right and have their freedom to be equal in society. And now we're going to empower the same yet government and country to take away guns from people, to basically take away money from people, to take so much away from people. You want to empower the very racist, sexist, and xenophobes that you basically don't want in office? And you're gonna put this power back into the hands of the people who've been in office. Mind you, remember, before Donald Trump was in office, folks, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Joe Biden, Mitch McConnell, all these people had been in office for 30 years longer than Trump was in office. And you're about to empower the very people that have made America horrible, thinking that it's going to get better? Are you kidding me? You've been raped from social wokeness, and you lack the fundamental skills to function in society. When we embrace this foolery, this buffoonery, go to buffoonoftheweek.com, share it out with as many people as you possibly can. Gene Beardelli shares a lot of great stuff, and he just wants you to look and reflect on this stuff. I'm asking you to do the same. And right now, many of you are hurt. You are butthurt by what I had to say. Many of you don't like what I had to say, so may I consider to you New Life Holistic. Does your mind seem like it often shuts down before it even starts? Sounds like you need to detox to improve your health in body, mind, and spirit. I'd like to tell you about New Life Holistic. It is an amazing therapy process that uses neurofeedback and biofeedback for many issues that ails everyone. New Life's method and approach to health, balance, energy, and vitality is what sets it apart from anything you have experienced ever before. Call 1-833-4-BIO-LIFE and tell them Watson from Battle4Freedom had sent you. One more thing. Give them the code MOJO50 and save $50 off of your first session. The consult is free. New Life Holistic. Yes, share New Life Holistic with as many people as possible. Many will probably not be happy with what I had to say today, and that's okay. That's your choice. That's your right to do whatever you want to do. But one of the things, you can have your opinion, but you can't change the truth. You have a right to every opinion that you want, but understand this, at the end of the day, the truth speaks louder than our opinions ever will be. Right, left, center, it doesn't matter. I got to go back to this thing from Jason Gouffre. No matter how you feel about guns, you should educate yourself with the historical truths of disarmed populations. My parents came here from Haiti. They fled Haiti because of the tyranny. My mother suffered PTSD and so much more because of the terror that the government sanctioned voodoo militia committed against her. I heard things that a 5-year-old child should never, ever hear. about what they did to my mother. This is what happens in a disarmed population when the government can sanction voodoo militia squads to go out and terrorize people to subjection. And what do you think the woke culture is now but a government sanctioned voodoo militia squad? You go out and you shame people. You go out and you destroy people. You don't buy our message. We're going to go into your store. We know that you're Christians. We know you don't feel this way. We know you don't support what we believe in, but we're going to force you to bake things that support our message. That is a form of tyranny. If you support the idea of going into and making Christians do something that they don't want to do, you are the very tyranny by which you speak out against. And that right there to show you that people will hunt down Christian businesses to destroy them, to make them be woke. And that is what Democrats and progressives are doing now. They will hunt down Americans. They will hunt down Christians. They'll hunt down whoever they want to get their will. The very form and definition of tyranny and totalitarianism. Folks, I'm your host, Watson Prunier from Battle for Freedom on Mojo Fiber Radio. Brad Staggs, Bard Staggs, and Rondolph the Gray up next. I'm out because I need to calm down.